In talking about some practical ways that we can integrate Ruby gems into an application, I wanted to use the relatively popular gem called Dish. Dish is a great gem if you want to take a hash and turn it into an actual Ruby object. So what that means essentially is, say that you have an API that you're querying. That's going to come in a JSON format, which isn't exactly the easiest to parse over. And so what Dish does is it makes it a lot easier to be able to go and grab those elements and be able to use them just like you would a regular Ruby object. So I'm going to show you how to integrate Dish just into a file. We're not going to integrate it with Rails or anything like that because I want to abstract this away so that you know exactly how you can call Ruby gems outside of any of the other magic that Rails or some of the other frameworks do. So let's open up I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call this one Dish example.rb, and then I'm going to open up Sublime, and we'll create this. I'll pull it out so it doesn't show another Ruby project I have. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you need to require Ruby gems. So you just say require Ruby gems, and as long as the system it's running on has this gem installed, then it will let you use it. And then after that, we want to require Dish. And same rules apply. You have to be able to install that on your system. Installing it is really easy. You do it right in the terminal. And each one of the gems you use typically has the installation instructions right here. So you can see if you want to install it yourself, you can do gem install Dish, and it will install it on your system so that you can use it. So now that we're calling in those dependencies, let's create a hash. So I'm going to say hash equals, and then we're going to create this hash object. I'll change the tab size to 2 just for personal reasons. Okay, so I'm going to create a hash, and we could say that we're querying the IMDb movie database or something like that. So in a regular hash, I'm going to have movie, and we'll say Star Wars, and we're going to have a nested hash. So we'll say actors, and we'll put an array inside of actors, and there's going to be a hash inside of each one of these. So I'm going to give some attributes to the actors. So we'll say the age is 22, and name is Luke. And then we'll put a few more in here. So let's put next one, we could do 35. And this one's going to be Han, even though I'm pretty sure Han was quite a bit younger than that in the original movie. And we'll say 400 for Yoda. Okay, so now we have our actors array, or hash inside of an array. And last one, I'm going to do a Boolean. So I'm going to say favorite and set this equal to true. Okay, so this is just a regular hash. There's nothing too magical going on right here. This is something that you're going to get in if you're calling some kind of JSON API, and this is pretty standard. And it mixes in regular parameters with strings, booleans, and then also nested arrays to show you the way most APIs are going to give you data. So because we have Dish, we're able to do this. So I'm going to print out something I'm going to call a new media object, and I'm going to create this object calling Dish, and notice how I'm capitalizing it, and we have access to this Dish object or this Dish class because we pulled Dish in up here. And the way that you instantiate it is just by declaring it and then also passing it in a argument. So the argument we're passing in is going to be this hash that we created right up here. And so let's see what this does for us. So hit save, and now if I run Ruby Dish example, It's going to run it, and you can see that it grabs each one of those elements and it gives us this hash. So this obviously isn't that helpful because we haven't really got to where we're using it yet. But this shows that everything is working and the syntax and everything like that is correct. And we're also instantiating the dish object properly. So now let me show you if we wanted to do this normally, and because you've been paying attention, and if you listen to the hash episode, that if we wanted to print out this hash, we'd have to do things like going hash and then going and grabbing the movie object from it and doing different things like that, and it can be really messy, and you can end up, say that you wanted to grab the name of the third item here in the hash that's inside the actors array, which is a nested hash in the third element in that array. You can see it would be chained pretty far down, and it'd be kind of a pain to get to, and it would make for some messy code. So what Dish does is it lets you use this new media object the same way as a regular Ruby object. So say that we want the movie, we can actually use the dot syntax right here. So now let's do this, run it again, and you can see it prints out Star Wars just like that. So that's really cool. That shows how you can use the dot syntax. This first element in the hash is usually an easy one to grab anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Now let's see the other cool things we can do. Since this is a Ruby object, we can actually treat the actors array like a regular array. So I'm going to say media.actors.length. Print this out, and you can see it actually prints out how long this array is. That's something that's really cool, and it'd be a pain to do that if you weren't using a gem like Dish. So you're able to grab that element and treat it like a regular Ruby array instead of having to do a lot of conversions and things like that. Dish does a lot for you under the hood. So now if you want to grab elements inside of that, so let's say media actors, and we want to grab the first actor there and say name. This should print out Luke, and it does. So there you go. And you can do this with anything else. So now say that you want to print out all the names. You could do this, and grab each one of them however you want. You also could be able to grab the age. So say you want to grab Luke's age right there. You can do that and print this out. You can see each one of those elements gets printed out perfectly the way that you'd want them to be. And this is a lot better syntax than normally you'd have to do. And to finish it off, let's go media.favorite. And okay, this is something that's really cool. Because it recognizes it's a Boolean, I can do favorite with a question mark right afterwards, and let's see what this does. It prints it out and shows that it's true right there. So this is really cool. So once you are working with APIs, then this is a great example of a gem that would be smart to integrate. There's a lot of gems where it can kind of bloat your code and they're kind of useless, but there are also gems where it makes your code much more readable. It's much less buggy. So as you can see right here, if we weren't using Dish, this would, instead of being, about 8 lines, this would probably be about 100 lines because you'd have to do a lot of conversions of arrays, and you'd have to chain down the hash and do all kinds of things like that in order to treat it like regular Ruby code. But what Dish does is it converts it, lets you treat it like a regular Ruby object, and makes your code a lot cleaner and more efficient, which is really what you want to use gems for, is to do things like this. So great job if you've gone through that. That's as easy as it is for learning how to integrate Ruby gems by themselves. And in the next episode, I'm going to show you how you can get more gem resources, research them, things like that.